It's commonly assumed that the activity of marketing aims to increase demand. This is problematic because there are times when marketing wishes to reduce demand, or at least certain classes of demand, to a level of supply that does not damage long-run customer relations. And it was for this reason that in 1971 Philip Kotler and Sid Levy invited us to consider a more sophisticated understanding of marketing by explaining that marketing is the business function concerned with controlling the level and composition of demand facing a company. To help us better understand the ways in which a company controls the level and composition of demand, this short video will summarize Kotler and Levy's paper, Demarketing, yes, Demarketing. So let's begin. For Kotler and Levy, demarketing is that aspect of marketing that deals with discouraging customers in general or certain classes of customers in particular on either a temporary or a permanent basis. In other words, demarketing can be considered a way of deliberately discouraging segments of the market from buying your products or services, and they identify three types of demarketing: general, selective, and ostensible. General demarketing is required when a company wants to shrink the level of total demand, and Kotler and Levy highlight three different situations that may give rise to general demarketing. The first way a company will deploy general demarketing is when there are temporary shortages of their product. This can happen because management have underestimated consumer demand, overestimated production, or both. For example, Kotler and Levy explain how Anheuser-Busch underestimated the rate of growth in demand for its popular Budweiser beer and found itself in the late 1960s having to ration supplies to its better dealers and markets while it was trying to expand its plant. For those of you who are studying microeconomics, you'll recognize that this is a capacity constraint. And on that, I'm going to reveal one of the things that all examiners love to see from students. Students who score well tend to show linkages across modules because it demonstrates synthesis of information. Synthesis of information is a higher level skill that students need as they progress through their studies. So try to incorporate what you're learning across your modules into a marketing assignment, for example, as it'll bode well for your overall grades going forward. Seriously, give it a go. Okay, now that I've highlighted another way to bump up your grades by demonstrating synthesis of information in your work, let's look at how companies implement general demarketing when there are temporary shortages of their product or service. According to Kotler and Levy, a company can achieve general demarketing when there are temporary shortage of their product or service by either containing demand or deciding who gets their product or service. When it comes to containing demand, a company has several options. They could 1. Reduce advertising and promotion of the product. 2. Have their salesperson push another product. 3. Increase the price of the product. 4. Make it more difficult for the buyer to buy the product. In behavioral economics, this would be known as increasing the pain of paying. 5. Reduce the quantity and quality of the product so it in turn turns people off and allows the company to speed up production processes. In other words, the company could intentionally cut corners. Or 6. They could reduce the number of outlets it sells its product in. In addition to the above, Kotler and Levy encourage marketers to develop a sound plan for product allocation, meaning they should allocate products on a first come, first served basis, allocate their product on a proportional demand basis, meaning a company could offer to fulfill a certain percentage of an order for each customer. They could also determine its most valuable customers and satisfy their demand levels completely, with the remaining customers receiving perhaps some fraction of their original order and the rest of them being on back order. Or they could allocate the product or service to the highest bidder. Taken together, the above are some of the ways that general demarketing can be used to maximize a company's long-run profitability when they are forced to temporary shortages of supply. Now, the good news is that I've created a one-page grid that captures the essence of this summary, and I'm going to show you that at the end of this video. So let's keep going. The second way a company will deploy general demarketing is when there is chronic overpopularity for their product or service. While overpopularity may be a problem that most companies would love to have, Kotler and Levy explain two ways that chronic overpopularity can have a detrimental effect. The first one is to do with the product being so popular that it may be a threat to the long-run quality of the product. This is most notable when it comes to tourism. For example, Kotler and Levy drew our attention to the adverse effect that too many tourists had on the island of Bali. Large number of tourists posed a serious threat to the island's natural beauty. Consequently, the authorities in Bali decided to reduce the island's appeal to middle-income tourists by increasing its appeal to high-income tourists. By building more luxury hotels and restaurants and advertising in places where high-income tourists would see their adverts, Bali repositioned itself as a destination exclusively for the wealthy. Another reason to implement general demarketing when there is chronic overpopularity of your product or service is when management does not want the strain of handling all of the demand. Again, Kotler and Levy provide an example that reinforces their point. This time, it's a fine dining restaurant in London. Not only is the restaurant fully booked for months in advance, but also people without reservations wait outside in the hope of cancellations. Initially, one might not consider this a problem, but the crowds outside created such noise that it deteriorated and distracted from the intimate atmosphere found inside the restaurant. And it was for this reason the restaurant hired a doorman who would discourage people from waiting for a cancellation and phoning about the availability of reservations. They also increased their prices. The third situation that may give rise to general demarketing is product elimination. As the name suggests, product elimination is when a company removes or discontinues a product or service. This can occur when a new model is released to the market. However, it is important that the way the product is removed is done so tactfully. After all, the company would not want to create customer ill will. Therefore, Kotler and Levy suggest several demarketing strategies that are available to firms who are planning to remove a product from the market. These strategies include informing the customer as to why the product is being dropped, offering partial or full compensation to important customers, or maintaining minimal stock of the product to satisfy those hardcore customers. Such demarketing strategies are used when the same customers purchase other items from the company and their goodwill must be maintained. So that's it for general demarketing. 3 situations where a company will use general demarketing: temporary shortages, chronic overpopularity, and product elimination. Next up is selective demarketing. Selective demarketing is when a company aims to discourage demand from certain groups of customers. These customers may be considered relatively unprofitable in themselves or undesirable in terms of their impact on other segments of demand. For instance, Kotler and Levy explain how a luxury hotel catering to middle-aged conservative people began to attract rich hippies with long hair and odd clothes, and who would sit on the lobby floor making a good deal of noise. Their behaviour and their appearance turned off the hotel's main clientele, and the management rapidly took steps to discourage further reservations by the hippies. Because the marketer is typically not free to charge a discriminatory price to the undesirable segment, they must create other ways to reduce the appeal of their product or service for those undesirable segments. And some of these ways they do that include discouraging hope for the product, having the salesperson not make calls to small organizations, providing poor service to the undesirable segment, making it harder for the undesirable segment to find product channels or information. So far, we've covered two types of demarketing, general and selective. Therefore, we've one left to cover, and that is ostensible demarketing. While the first two types of demarketing aim to reduce consumption, there are times when a company uses demarketing techniques to actually increase demand. By creating the appearance of not wanting more customers, a company can make their product even more desirable to some people. For example, when promoters of a rock concert highlight that the crowds will be too large and that seats are practically sold out, what they're actually doing is increasing the desire. Likewise, when you tell some customers that they can't have it and it's not for them, it can make the product even more attractive because there are some consumers who want to demonstrate that they hold the power in the purchase. Think of it as reverse psychology. Now that we've covered the main points from the article, how can you use this research to achieve a better grade in marketing? Firstly, this paper provides you with an opportunity to challenge the assumption that marketing aims to increase demand. While there is truth in this statement, there are times when marketing aims to reduce consumption. Therefore, by drawing attention to this more sophisticated understanding of marketing, you will demonstrate depth of knowledge. And that's a good thing for those of you who are aiming for high grades. Secondly, this paper explains that by reducing consumption in the short term, it can benefit the company in the long term. This is most notable when it comes to tourism. Think back to the earlier example of Bali. Finally, for those of you who are writing an assignment or have an exam that requires you to discuss green consumption, sustainable consumption, or social marketing, this paper is an excellent one to cite. For instance, at the time of making this video, this paper has been cited by 530 other people on Google Scholar, with the vast majority of these papers exploring, examining, and investigating timely topics such as sustainable tourism, environmental marketing, and corporate social marketing, to name but a few. So there we go. That's demarketing, yes, demarketing summarized. The easiest way for you to find out what paper I'll summarize next, simply subscribe to the channel. And if this video is helpful, I'll kindly ask you to like it because it will help other students see these summaries. So that's it for this video. And remember to let first class shortcuts help you to understand first class research. Thank you.